Alicia, tell me the feeling you had when you first heard that your agency was going to be on the front cover of Rough Notes magazine.
Shock. Do you have the right phone number? I mean, what an honor to just be highlighted in that way. I was flabbergasted, really. Such an honor to be asked to do this.
It's a special thing. It really truly is. And it's I'm really really glad that you got that feeling and that excitement. I haven't, but I know that there many are. Since the last time we actually did a podcast on this, since this is the second one, I actually got some new stats that show that actually the first one was done. The first agency was in 1989, right?
Wow.
1989. There were 12 the first year and 11 every other year after that, because in January is when they have the agency of the year
Right.
is when that one is. So that's pretty cool. But the last statistic, which I thought was cool, or stat, was it's 374 front total agencies as of 2023. So that's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're giants. When you look at the people that have been highlighted, it's just amazing. I stand in fantastic company.
374 agencies that laid the brick road that we're on, laid
Absolutely.
the road that allows you and I to do the things that we can with our kids, with you, with Nolan and your kids and husband. I mean, just to be, it's amazing. And then to be a part of that. So I'm really, really happy for you. And I'm anxious to kind of dig into some of the stuff that you guys talked about inside inside the article.
Yeah.
Really am.
Thank
So
you.
I want to kind of start at some of the stuff that we were talking. You got into it as part time, and I didn't know that about you. And then and an agency in Tacoma, am I correct?
Yeah. So I was 16. So that was the only option was part-time, right? I was in high school and I had a friend going off to college and she did it after school and she was sort of tasked with finding her replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they paid like $1 more than minimum wage. It wasn't food service. I thought, what a great opportunity to learn about business. And at my first agency, it was a family agency. And one of the owners, excuse me, who was a woman, was super cool. Like everything a 16-year-old would be impressed by. She drove like a convertible Mercedes that was purple. And she was like
Ah,
well dressed and she was just really cool. And she really invested in me. So she kind of hooked me with her cool lifestyle. Cool to a 16-year-old.
cool to yeah. It doesn't take long. And then you, how long were you there?
About 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
then
then
I got headhunted by captives, right? Like I had all these referrals from captive agents, Allstate,
mm-hmm.
State Farms. And so I was consistently trying to be recruited. And then someone just got me on the right day and said, hey, come work for me. And I bounced around doing that for a little while. And then I was managing a fairly large captive agency, about 5 offices, 35 people before I started my agency in March of 2012.
What did you learn there about bouncing around there? Because I know sometimes some agents are in the same spot they've been from the beginning, but many also did bounce around before they found something. I mean, would you say that was a plus of yours?
Yeah, I think I was young and I didn't know exactly what road I wanted to be on. And the grass was greener, right? People were offering me better benefits or more
That's
money.
right.
I think there is a lot of value in staying in one place and knowing it inside and out and building. But I will say that I think part of the reason that I'm good at what I do now is because I've worked for Allstate, I've worked for State Farm, I've been at independent
Mm-hmm.
agencies, and so I have sort of this different perspective
I agree.
of what's out there.
I do. I do agree. I think that diversity. They say one of the most, if you take 100 most successful or unique people in the world, there's certain if you lay them in a matrix, there's certain characteristic about them that made them who they are, right? But if you lay them across, one of the things is if your parents were in the military, and the sociologists associate that with the fact that you've lived usually in many different areas and you've traveled a lot. And that diversity gives you a better feeling and foundation for when you get into any circumstance. And I kind of see that here, right? You being in all those different places allows that to be diverse to only strengthen who you are as a professional. So that's why I asked that. I wanted to get your feeling on that. So that's
Yeah, that's
cool.
really interesting. That does not surprise me. That,
Yeah.
that moving around and fitting in and learning how to sort of exist in whatever your surroundings are, it makes sense.
hmm Malcolm Gladwell, I believe, Outsiders or Outliers, excuse me, not Outsiders. That was a movie. Outliers. Outliers is the name of that book where he talks about that. It's a phenomenal book. If for all you Rough Note listeners, if you have read that book, you know how awesome it is. If you're looking for a book, please go read that book. It is mind blowing.
Also,
So
Outsiders is a book. The movie was based
yes,
on
it
it.
is.
Great book, young adult book if you've got kids. Fantastic book.
Yes, it is. There, double whammo. Someone just won twice for listening to this awesome podcast. Hello. Okay, so you jump around, and then from what I read there, you went to this captive agency, but then it was about you starting your own because I think you ran into something that a lot of specifically women run into the fact that hey, this is a great career and everything, but Nolan comes along, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was working, I don't know, 60 hours a week and really making someone else a lot more money than I was being compensated. I know that that's not always a pretty thing to talk about, but it's the reality of it.
It's true.
And, um, I got this picture. This is like a moment in my head that is so vivid is I got this text and it was Nolan. He was, probably one, maybe not even. And he was asleep in his high chair and he had spaghetti all over his face. It was just like one of those
Mm-hmm.
classic kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm one of those never cry at work kind of people. I don't do that. I cried at work. I had to excuse myself and go in the parking lot and I cried. And it really was the catalyst for me to say, I want to be home for dinner every night. I don't want to miss these moments.
It's
So 3 months
amazing when
later, I
something
started my agency.
and there was no looking back. That determination that set you loose. I mean, it took that dam to break of those tears for you just to be like, okay, I now see what's important to me. Good for you. Alicia, so many people don't make that move. And they may have their own reasons of why they do or why they don't. We're not here to judge for that, but a lot of just people can't or won't be able to make that move. And the fact that you did says a lot about you, says a lot about your husband as well. Because I mean, that's a huge, huge step.
Yeah.
And I want to talk. Yeah, I want to talk more about that because here you are. Okay, yeah, I'm working 60 hours. I'm gonna go do this my own self. Have some more time with my family. That sounds good, but then again, you have to have some companies. You have to have carriers. And I loved your approach whenever I was reading the notes of the interview they did with you. That I loved your approach on how you have a very sound, solid relationship with your carriers. I envy you as another agency owner, Alicia. I envy you on that. I sometimes don't. That's why I'm partners with Travis. I don't see the importance sometimes of, hey, I'm out here writing business, and it's important that we write good quality business, and we do pre-underwrite, right? And we understand that our carriers are just not carriers; they're our partners. They're our strategic partners. And you really, really hit on that. Give me your feel for that, and then I want to talk about how you got those carriers whenever you were starting out new. What's your philosophy there?
Yeah. So I am really big on partnering with your carriers. And I think especially in this market when it's so hard, it can feel adversarial almost, right? And
Mm-hmm.
carriers are our best friends. Like when I get a new rep, I always tell them, hey, if you have a call, if you're short one agency, you send me an email and I will do my best to fit you into my schedule. And when you have a relationship where you have candid, direct communication about what's right, what's wrong, what expectations you think are unreasonable in a polite, professional way, right? But it doesn't take long for my reps to say, I like it because you never sugarcoat it for me. And it's true. But once you have that
Mm-hmm.
relationship where you can really talk about what your challenges are, where they need to improve, you start to see changes. I'm a big fan. I'm the president of Safe Coast National Council. Huge fan of that process. I think that if I could make one recommendation to agency owners, I would say try to get involved with your carrier's councils, whether you're a
Amen.
constituent agent, whether you're, just writing letters and giving feedback. Most of our carriers want to know how to do it better for us.
They really do. They really, really, truly do. So as you went and decided to go out on your own, the little one is 15 months old. You're starting to move on. Here we go. How did you decide? What was your strategy to go get carriers at that point in time? As I talked about before, listeners, I really think it's important that that you listen to this, because whether you're working for an agency now or maybe you own one in the future and you're looking, I think there's a lot of things that can be shared here as we try to figure out how to get carriers, especially in this market. It's a very tough market. A lot of carriers have left, and it's going to be time to finally get them once the economy or that picks back up, the rates hopefully get under control. So what are some of your thoughts, Elisha? What was your strategies when you went after your carriers to start your agency?
Sure. So of course I had my ideal 3 that I wanted to get started with. And a lot of them said no on our first meeting. They said, we don't appoint scratch agents. I said, well, here are my reports. Here are the hard numbers on what I've done. This is, irrefutable evidence that I've done this and I can do it. And here's my business plan. Here are my projections. And I really just didn't take no for an answer. I think I had Progressive on day 1. Progressive is great. They'll appoint anyone. And I was able to make it work. I said, okay, we're going to rock with Progressive for 6 weeks. And then the next thing you know, when you're not giving up, when you're refining your sales pitch, and when you're saying, look, here's what I've done so far, give me a shot. It really worked. I think that being persistent and determined is one of the most important characteristics to being successful in this. And I was recently talking to a couple of friends of mine who are agency owners about advice for other women agency owners. And you can narrow all this fantastic advice down to grit, stay determined, stay confident, be persistent, and you can do it. You can do anything.
Right. You're right. I love what you said here. So you took it step by step, it sounds like. I mean, it was okay, let me get what I can get. Who believes in me? Let me work with them, get them to really understand that I wasn't blowing hot air. I actually am doing it. And then using that as a stepping stone to eventually 2023 Female Agency of the Year there at Safeco, right? So it is proof. I'm a reader. Well, Elisha, you know me. I'm a geek like this stuff, right? And I love it. You make me think of Peyton Manning when he has the most fourth quarter comebacks. And they said to him one day, they said, how is it that you just continually able to do it? And what are you thinking there? What's happening? And he says, the only thing I know is I got to get 10 yards to get a first down. And then after that happens, I got to get 10 yards to get a first down. And then after that happens, I got to get 10 yards first down. And depending on how far we're out, that usually I can get that done in 2 minutes to make us a touchdown. That was so beautiful to say that we're not becoming, we're going to go deep here and go to the sideline. It's I got to get the next one. And that's what you were doing there, right? I got to get Progressive. I got to get the next one. I got to get the next one. And badoosh, you're on the front cover of Rough Notes magazine. Come on, back up, sister, back up.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of that, Jason, is it's like any other industry. You have to network. I say this all the time, insurance is a small industry. Be kind to everyone. Be kind to everyone. Even if it's not, just be polite, be courteous. And you never know who that the next thing they're running a region or they're your new underwriter when you call for exception. So I think networking is the piece of that as well.
I absolutely agree. I think our industry is so great. I say it, I know I'm not the only one that coined it. Someone did both years before me, but it's the greatest industry God ever created. It really, truly is. I mean, wow, just for all the things that we know. I don't have to repeat that because there's nothing but probably a bunch of insurance people listening to this themselves, So that makes sense. That makes sense. But okay. So, and I do agree with the carriers. It's really important to know somebody shouldn't be out there saying, well, what if I don't have numbers to prove what I did, well, you should be understanding that maybe a carrier is not going to give you an appointment if they don't understand. I mean, a bank doesn't give you a loan if you don't have a credit history, right? Like that's just kind of the way the world works. And that's kind of tough. But if you've worked in an agency for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, and you think you should go on your own, you should be able to have the numbers for that, right? And I love what you put. I made a note here on that. You said the hard numbers is what you said. And I loved that because that's actually, if you really think about it, that's where I think a lot of people want to walk in and say, well, I did $2 million book, or yeah, I wrote this much. And it's like, no, show me the numbers, because then all of a sudden that's like, hey, that's a different story. This person's really has some stuff together. And then you also said you had a business plan. Anything special about that business plan you remember that you kind of accented to make it look good?
It's really funny to look back at my business plan over. I do it every now and then. I'm like, what in the world was I thinking? And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, right? We just have to be so fluid and flexible, and that's entrepreneurship, is figure out the path and ride it out. I would be at like $150 billion today, according to my business plan. I shot for the stars.
You did. I'm telling you. And it's funny, I did the same thing. And for all you Rough Notes listeners, you're probably giggling yourself if you went back and looked at your first business plan and you're thinking to yourself, what was I thinking? I didn't even know what I was talking about, I think, when I wrote this thing, because it makes no sense, right? But at the time, when you believe in something, people will believe in you, and that's all it takes. That's right, girl. All right. So let's go on to one other thing here that I wanted to click on when we were talking about culture. That was something that I really brought out of the interview. And for all you Rough Notes listeners, whether you've read it or not, you're going to find out that we're only talked around 2 or 3 things, kind of dug in a little deeper. You got to read the article to figure out and get all the other beauty of how these journalists do it, how they get the stuff out of her that they got out of her. I think is really good. I'm not going to kill any more of it. You got to go read the article and then also listen to this. This is where we try to dig deeper. And I want to talk about culture here for a minute, Elisha, because I think that's a big deal for you. When I read the interview, I kind of was like, wow, she gets it, right? That was one of those things. Like sometimes we can listen to other agency owners talk and we can be like, they're just kind of mailing it in when it comes to that, or they're just kind of saying the talking points of somebody else. But there's certain detailed things that you can talk about and you can relate to when you're understanding. And I wanted to ask you about your culture and how important it is to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to start with the story. Many years ago, when I worked for a State Farm agent who was lovely, she came to me one day and she said, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. And she said, I really want you to try to combine every time you need to fax something, every time you need to fill up your water, and every time you need to go to the restroom. I want you to combine those into one trip so that you're not up from your desk more than twice a day. I kid you not. I quit the next day.
Wow. Wow, Elisha.
And she's successful and good for her. And I have no ill will, but that was like a moment for me that was like, this is insane. And then, as I told you, like being like, I miss my kid. I have a daughter now too, 6. I was able to take 6 months of maternity leave off when I had her. When she was born, I took 6 months. I had to do some things because we're business owners, but I was not in the office 40 hours a week. So I think that's why I really do get culture. And it is hard when you're a small business and, you have a smaller team to have like, a coffee bar in your office and things like that. But there are things that I think anyone can do that are simple. We do unlimited PTO. I know that work is never the most important thing. I've probably said this to you before, but our policyholders won't be at our funerals. Maybe a couple, but those aren't the people who we're making a big impact on. And so I want to treat my team the same way that I want to be treated. Because honestly, if I was in that position and my boss at the time when I worked at that captive said, you know what, you can be flexible. You can work 25 hours a week and be home. And I may have stuck it out there. Right. And so I want my team to feel really valued as people. So the things that I can do, I do unlimited PTO. I'm not a micromanager. I'm a KPIer. Is your stuff getting done? I don't care if you're watching Netflix, if you're getting your stuff done and hitting your numbers. I just don't care. We have like a Pop a Shot in our office, which is like an arcade basketball game. We have a lot of fun. We try to remember that we're people and not just
Mm-hmm.
a team.
Yeah, you're right about that. And so, let me ask you this: how many people are in your agency?
There's just three of us right now.
And what's the age demographic?
Everyone was under 40, but we had a birthday. I think it's 42 now, but for a while, everyone was under 40, which I was very proud of.
Okay. Yes. We really, most of us are under 40. Okay. I was just curious about this. So check this out. You hit all over it, Elisha, from what I was thinking here. So I am in Puerto Rico last week at BrainShare, reading the interview that they did with you and just going through my mind and stuff. I'm not in BrainShare, right? But I was out by the pool or something and I'm reading it, trying to think of what things we're going to talk about. And when we were talking about culture, I go back in the next day and Brent Kelly from Sitkin Group is teaching or is leading the BrainShare. And he asks everybody, what is culture? And we all went around like we do at BrainShare and we're all saying our stuff or whatever. And he says, it's the way that your agency acts and treats each other and other people, essentially is what he said. And it's exactly what you were saying. I want people to be treated this way. I don't care if you're doing this or how you're doing that. We don't need to be judging you based on how many times you're getting up to go to the bathroom or you're getting a cup. This is your life. As long as you're getting the job done, we should be treating them that way. I mean, when other people in our life, if they give us satisfaction for doing the thing they're supposed to be doing, we give them congratulations for that. We act in accordance of that way. And if you really think about it, like our culture and society tells us the way that we should treat each other and the way we should act towards each other and the cuss words we can say on TV and the cuss words we can't say on TV, right? Those different things. And I think it breaks it down into the business. It's funny because I heard him say that and then I'm listening to you and you're all over exactly what that culture means. So I thought that was cool.
Thank you. Yeah. I heard great things about BrainShare. So I'm glad that I hit on some of that stuff.
Yeah, it was really good. Now, the thing I like about the culture is just a very weird thing because I think about probably 10 years ago, if you mention the word culture, like their eyes roll back in their head and they're like, oh my gosh, because we talked about core values. Remember? Right. Which I think are still important. I'm not down on that. But what I'm saying is it's so much more than that, right? It's understanding the way people are. And some people say, well, I just don't know how to build a culture. Sure. And Billy Williams told me one time something. He said, Jason, sometimes people think that they don't have habits. He says, everybody has habits, whether they're good or bad. You do the same thing pretty much every day. And I think it's the same thing here. We have a culture in our agency. All of us do. Mm-hmm. Is it the culture you're wanting? Is it the culture that you're trying to inspire to lead the next generation? And I think is what it is. And I think what you're creating is saying, hey, I want you to be a team member and to help people. That's what we do. At the end of the day, we're not going to judge you based on the time off that you're going to take, or maybe you need to get up and play a little game or something like that.
I think this is especially important right now, right? These conversations that the conversations our teams are having are so difficult. They're so taxing. And I just had this conversation yesterday as sometimes when you're talking to someone about, maybe their rate increased 40% and it's still the best option. And when you're talking to that person, it feels so much bigger. It's hard not to internalize some of that, not to feel bad for someone when they're talking about their budget, right? And our frontline teams are having these conversations every single day. They're burnt out. Like, we need to be doing everything that we can to support them, to encourage them. Tyler Asher from Safeco always says, if there's one thing I know about a hard market, it doesn't last forever. And this will end. It's just when.
Very well said, Tyler. Yeah. No, it will be. It won't. And it's just also a different generation of people that we're living in, you can't continue in the agency of today. you cannot try to treat your people like they were in the agency of yesterday and expect to have a future.
Yeah.
You can't continue to keep doing that, because I think one of the things, and there's so much more about this, Elisha, and I could go on and on about this podcast, that all of these things are little splits in the way that business has always been done. And to some people, it's like, well, this too shall pass. I am a believer in that saying. There really is. But I just got to tell you, AI is not going to pass. And I'm not going to go down the the road. I'm saying there are things that are truly going to splinter. And if you look back, they have created have created disturbances in business before, and including our business. And so I
Absolutely.
think it's so important. Going back to culture, culture is so important, because I see a lot of businesses that could be losing very valuable people due to their culture. And then they're finding places that have a good culture, which is like a double negative, right? Or it's great for that person, but they probably already had a good culture and already had a good staff anyways. And I
Yeah.
think that there's darn good insurance agents and business people who have vast knowledge and wisdom that need to be helping a little bit more on the culture that could perpetuate their great agency. Their agency is great for a reason, and I hope that they see that, and I think
Totally.
that you do, Elisha.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I will say the one thing about culture is that it's not going to cost you a ton of money, right? There are all these investments we can make into our agency, and a lot of them are large investments. There's a lot of things that we do that
Mm-hmm.
cost a lot of money. Culture is close to free, and
Yes.
it really affects your day. I always say, if I don't want to go to work one day, I need to take a look at my culture and see what's happening. I don't want anyone to feel like that.
Well, I tell you what, if my team's listening to this, or the AI has pulled that out of their culture, is close to
Free. Free.
free. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. It said Frice. I was like, Frice? What? No, it's not Frice. Now, a culture is close to free. That is good stuff right there. I appreciate that. Is awesome. That is good stuff. Alicia, as we wrap up about this, I want to talk. I want to kind of turn the attention to something else. Happens to be with the insurance Mavericks.
Yeah.
That's something that you are kind of a huge part of. Definitely deserves its spotlight in this. Tell us a little bit about Insurance Mavericks and how you're a part of it. Give us the
Yeah.
lowdown.
So it is a Facebook group for independent insurance agency owners only. And it has become this really fantastic environment for all kinds of things. Sometimes it's camaraderie, sometimes it's advice, sometimes it's a gentle slap in the face when you really need someone to tell you that you're doing something wrong.
Good way to say it.
So I got invited to be a part of that board. I'm going to say in July. And when I saw the women involved in it, I said, absolutely. I'm not kidding you when I say it took me 10 minutes to say, yes, 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 yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the commitment is. I believe in it. And it's been really cool
Mm-hmm.
to see the growth in that. So if you're not a part of the group, find us on Facebook, Insurance Mavericks. It's green. Answer the questions, and we'd love to have you be a part of us.
Am I correct to say it's an all-woman board?
We do have all women on the board. Yeah,
I
we
love it.
do.
I love it. I love it. I
Thanks.
absolutely love it. I think us men have screwed up enough stuff long enough. They said, just get aside for a minute. Just let us do this, right? Sounds like my house. Sounds like most of our houses in America, right? Just get out of the way, son. So it's that kind of way. But no, this is something we've predicted for a long time. We've predicted, at least I have. I've had a presentation for like probably the last 10 years called Women in Insurance, where I've predicted, and many people have listened to me before, where I predict in the next 200 years there will be more women presidents than there are men. I've said that
Yeah.
for a long time. And I really, truly believe that. I was raised by a single woman, so I kind of have a little bit of a different insight on some of this stuff. But I think women are incredible at what they do. I believe that the insurance industry is fantastic because of women. And people say, why? Well, it's because of residual income. And around 85% of all agencies are filled up with women who happen to be managing the majority of those renewals. And if renewable income happens to be one of the greatest things in the insurance industry, then I would say that women account for that. And I think sometimes that when we look at what's happening here with caring and sharing, I believe our society is becoming a society that the characteristic of women is a very big strength to them. and I think for men, it doesn't put us in a way or in a different, doesn't make it different. It just happens to be that now there's people who are using the skills that we lack to be very, very good and help making society better. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that this is a total example. For years, we've had all men boards on Facebook groups, and we didn't mean to. We were just like, I invite our buddies, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's okay that girls do that too, and it's okay that anybody does that. And
Yeah.
so I really, really love it. I really, really love it. I think that there's great leadership involved. I know every one of you women personally that run it. And I think you guys always have the best interest. I love your like little maverick flyovers, you guys call it.
Yeah.
I think their marketing is on point. I'm telling you, I'm a marketing guy. I love it. I really,
Well,
really,
that's
truly
a big compliment from you. Well, I will say thank you for always champion. It's the end of the podcast. I can't talk.
I
You've always
understand. I understand.
championed for women. And I really appreciate you shining that spotlight. I was on a call yesterday with interesting statistics about women, and I have to share it just because.
Come on.
Okay. So CSRs, 97% are women, 3% are men. 66% of producer agents are women, 34% are men. 74% of principals or owners are men, and 26 are women. And this is as of 2024, and this was done by Liberty Mutual and Safeco. And I just think it's really interesting. But you know what I will say is I've been doing this since I was 16. It's been a while, and I do see more and more women at the table, and I think that's really cool. So I do think it's a special time in the industry, and it's nice to see that moving forward.
Yeah. It really truly is. And then it's really awesome that not only are they at the table, but they usually now, because they've worked their way up or they've bought and acquired agencies, they're usually sitting at like 6-7 million in revenue at the table. And there's little old me over there, like at 1.5 million. Like, you know what I mean? All of a sudden it's like, it doesn't matter anymore. And that's what I just love about where we're at. Like just the best person wins by doing the best job and providing the best service and product out there. Right.
Yeah. I love it.
That's what, yeah, I love it. All right. We went on too far about that, but then again, no, we didn't, because we can never go too far. Please check out the Insurance Mavericks. It is a fantastic group, agency owners, only. So you got to go there, check it out. Like she said, it's green. You'll notice it. It says green, or well, it doesn't say green. It is the color green. Okay. But either way. So, Elisha, I do appreciate it. That's really all that I have for you. And once again, congratulations for being on the front cover of Rough Note magazine. I mean, this is fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's an honor, and I really enjoyed this time with you. Thank you, Jason.
Yes, thank you very much. And I do want to say thank you to you, Rough Notes, for giving us the platform to be able to help these people shine, from the physical article to the digital stream right here at Rough Notes front cover. We appreciate it very much. See you next time.